Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel General Hospital today. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The Thursday, September 18th, 2025, episode of General Hospital continues the show's long-standing tradition of intertwining suspense, drama, and heartfelt emotion, with characters pushed into situations that test their loyalties and their limits. Viewers tuning in to this particular installment will find themselves swept up in multiple storylines that connect the core families of Port Charles, while deepening conflicts that have been simmering for months. With secrets beginning to unravel, betrayals looming large, and unexpected alliances forming, the stage is set for an episode that will keep fans buzzing long after the credits roll. As always, the events of this day feel like both a continuation of everything that has come before, and a setup for the future shocks that are inevitable in a town where nothing ever stays quiet for long. The episode opens with a moment of reflection for one of Port Charles's most conflicted characters. As the camera lingers on the familiar setting of the Metro Court Terrace, tension fills the air even before the first words are spoken. The energy between the characters is fraught, suggesting conversations that can no longer be delayed. Port Charles has been a city defined by secrets, and on this day, many of those secrets hover right on the verge of exposure. The quiet before the storm becomes almost unbearable, and longtime fans know that when a scene starts with silence, it is only a matter of time before raised voices and heated accusations erupt. The performances in this episode highlight the unique chemistry of the ensemble cast, with each actor leaning into the weight of their character's history, while still pushing the narrative into new territory. One of the most compelling threads revolves around the fallout of recent revelations that have shaken two major families to the core. Trust, once broken, is nearly impossible to repair, and the characters grappling with this truth must decide whether to forgive or to seek retribution. The writers weave together the emotional complexities of family bonds with the adrenaline-pumping tension of looming danger, reminding viewers why General Hospital has held its audience for decades. The past cannot be forgotten, and the sins of one generation often echo into the lives of the next. This cyclical storytelling resonates with fans who understand that in Port Charles, the lines between love and hate, loyalty and betrayal, are razor thin. Elsewhere in town, an unexpected meeting at Kelly's diner sets another plot into motion. A casual encounter quickly transforms into a pivotal moment, as old wounds resurface and characters who thought they had moved on from past heartbreaks find themselves dragged right back into emotional turmoil. The dialogue here is sharp, filled with subtext, as each word spoken carries an unspoken meaning. The characters try to maintain a sense of civility, but their body language betrays the storm that is raging beneath the surface. This scene is particularly powerful, because it reminds viewers of how much history exists between even the most ordinary of interactions. Every look, every pause, every hesitant sip of coffee is loaded with memories that can't simply be erased. In the hospital itself, chaos is brewing. General Hospital is not just the namesake of the show. It is also the beating heart of the community, and on this day, it is once again the setting for both life-saving miracles and devastating setbacks. Doctors and nurses rush through the halls, patients and family members cling to hope, and administrators try to maintain a fragile sense of order amid the whirlwind of emotions. A critical medical case takes center stage, forcing one of the physicians to make a difficult choice that could change the trajectory of several lives. The episode uses the hospital setting to explore themes of morality, responsibility, and the fragility of life itself. Decisions made in these sterile halls echo far beyond the walls of the institution, and viewers are reminded of the constant intersection of personal and professional lives for those who dedicate themselves to medicine. Meanwhile, a romantic subplot continues to simmer, offering a contrast to the darker tones of betrayal and danger. Two characters whose chemistry has been undeniable for weeks find themselves finally addressing the feelings they can no longer ignore. The moment is tender yet filled with tension, as both are fully aware that giving in to their desires may have consequences far greater than either can imagine. The writers skillfully balance the sweetness of newfound love with the uncertainty of what it means in a world where external pressures and family rivalries constantly intrude. Fans who have been rooting for this couple to take the leap will find themselves holding their breath, hoping the promise of happiness can withstand the inevitable storms to come. The antagonistic forces in Port Charles are never far behind, and on this day, a brewing scheme takes a dangerous turn. One of the town's most notorious figures pulls strings behind the scenes, ensuring that chaos is never far from the surface. Manipulation and deceit are the tools of the trade, and this character wields them with precision. As plans unfold, the audience is left wondering just how far the villain is willing to go to maintain control, and what the collateral damage will be. The brilliance of the writing lies in its ability to make viewers simultaneously loathe and admire the cunning strategies employed, as the character navigates the blurred lines of power, ambition, and desperation. This episode also revisits the theme of legacy, as younger characters struggle to define themselves in the shadow of their parents' choices. The generational divide becomes increasingly apparent, with the younger generation questioning the decisions of those who came before, while simultaneously grappling with their own mistakes. The friction between generations fuels much of the drama, reminding viewers that the cycle of secrets and betrayals will never truly end in Port Charles. Instead, it evolves as new characters step into the spotlight and old ones fight to hold on to their influence. This balance of past and future gives the show its enduring quality, allowing it to remain fresh while still rooted in decades of history. As the episode builds toward its conclusion, the tension becomes nearly unbearable. Multiple storylines converge, and characters who have been on separate paths suddenly find themselves colliding in ways that feel both inevitable and shocking. The pacing accelerates, with rapid cuts between scenes that heighten the suspense and leave viewers scrambling to keep up with the whirlwind of emotions. A heated argument in one location mirrors a moment of confession in another, while elsewhere, a dangerous confrontation sets the stage for future explosions. The connective tissue between these scenes is the theme of choice. Every character, in their own way, is faced with a decision that could alter not only their own life but the lives of those they care about most. The final moments of the episode leave viewers on the edge of their seats. A shocking revelation delivered with perfect timing ensures that fans will be counting down the hours until the next episode airs. The cliffhanger is both devastating and tantalizing, offering just enough information to spark endless speculation without resolving the questions raised. As the screen fades to black, the sense of anticipation is palpable. General Hospital thrives on these moments, and the fallout from the previous day's revelations continues to ripple through Port Charles as Thursday's episode pushes the characters into even more difficult choices. In the wake of emotional confrontations, the tension lingers in the air like an invisible storm cloud, coloring every interaction with uncertainty. The characters who thought they had control over their lives now find themselves staring down consequences they never anticipated. Every room feels charged, every conversation layered with meaning, and the unease spreads from family to family. It is in this atmosphere that friendships are tested and alliances re-examined, for in Port Charles, even the closest of confidants can become adversaries when secrets are on the line. At the Quartermaine mansion, emotions remain at a boiling point. Long accustomed to family drama, the Quartermaines find themselves in the middle of yet another bitter dispute that threatens to tear them apart. Old resentments resurface as harsh words are exchanged, and for a moment, it feels like the weight of generations is pressing down on every member of the household. Even those who try to play peacemaker are dragged into the chaos, unable to remain neutral when the stakes are so personal. This family has weathered countless storms before, but the arguments of the day carry a sharpness that suggests wounds may not heal easily this time. Observers can't help but wonder who will emerge victorious in this power struggle, and who will be left alienated from those they once loved most. Meanwhile, at the Metro Court, two characters who have been circling each other for weeks finally come face to face in a conversation that refuses to stay polite. The setting, polished and elegant, provides a stark contrast to the raw emotion bubbling beneath the surface. What begins as small talk quickly escalates into accusations, each word a dagger aimed straight at the heart. Neither side is willing to back down, and though they may have entered this meeting with the intention of resolving matters, it becomes clear that the divide between them is wider than ever. This clash of wills, fueled by a history of betrayals and misunderstandings, demonstrates the soap's knack for drawing out the complexity of human relationships. Even when both characters believe they are right, the truth is far murkier than either will admit. At General Hospital itself, the chaos of a medical crisis dominates the screen. The patient's life hangs in the balance, and the doctors are forced to act quickly, their expertise tested under the most intense of circumstances. The tension is almost unbearable as monitors beep frantically and nurses rush in with supplies. For one doctor, the case becomes personal, stirring memories of past failures that still haunt them. The emotional weight of the moment is clear in their eyes as they realize that the outcome of this case could either redeem them or deepen the scars they already carry. The writers use this medical storyline not only to provide the necessary suspense, but also to explore the deeply human side of those who dedicate their lives to saving others. Success and failure in medicine are never just professional. They reverberate into every aspect of the characters' personal lives. Elsewhere in town, a character long considered a schemer finds themselves cornered by circumstances they hadn't anticipated. For so long, they have been the one pulling strings, manipulating those around them for personal gain. But on this day, the tables begin to turn. A confrontation forces them to acknowledge that even the most carefully laid plans can unravel with shocking speed. What makes this storyline compelling is the shift in power dynamics. Watching a manipulator struggle against forces outside their control provides a sense of poetic justice, yet it also reminds viewers that in Port Charles, redemption is always a possibility. Whether this character will cling to their old ways or attempt to forge a new path remains unclear, but the uncertainty makes their journey all the more fascinating to watch. Back at Kelly's, the heart of the community beats steadily. The diner often serves as a backdrop for quieter, more intimate conversations, and Thursday's episode is no exception. A heartfelt talk between two friends becomes a moment of unexpected vulnerability, with one finally confessing fears they have carried alone for far too long. The scene is simple, stripped of the glamour and chaos that fills much of the rest of the episode, and yet it resonates deeply. The writers understand that soap operas are not just about high-stakes drama, but also about the quiet moments of connection that remind viewers of the humanity at the core of these characters. For the friend on the receiving end of the confession, the question becomes how to offer comfort without judgment, a delicate balance that speaks to the complexity of true friendship. Romance, as always, simmers beneath the surface of Port Charles life. A couple whose relationship has been on uncertain ground takes tentative steps toward reconciliation. Their shared history, marked by both joy and pain, hangs between them as they attempt to rebuild what was once broken. The vulnerability in their interactions is palpable, and fans who have followed their story for years will find themselves rooting for a happy ending even as doubts linger. Trust is fragile, and in a world where secrets are currency, the possibility of betrayal always looms large. The emotional stakes are heightened by the knowledge that neither can afford another heartbreak, making every word of reconciliation both hopeful and fraught with danger. As night falls in Port Charles, the tone shifts from tension to anticipation. Multiple storylines that have been simmering all day converge as characters make choices that will reverberate far into the future. A clandestine meeting in a shadowy location hints at alliances that could change the balance of power in town. A confession whispered in the darkness threatens to unravel a relationship that seemed unshakable. And elsewhere, a decision made in desperation sets in motion a chain of events that can never be undone. The pacing of these final moments quickens, carrying the audience toward a cliffhanger that is as shocking as it is inevitable. When the screen fades to black, viewers are left stunned, eager for the next chapter in a saga that refuses to slow down. The low, rhythmic beep of a heart monitor was the only sound daring to break the heavy silence of the hospital room. It was a sound so familiar to the corridors of General Hospital that it had become a kind of white noise, a constant, thrumming backdrop to the endless cycles of life, death, and the exhausting, messy business of living that happened in between. But in this particular room, on this particular morning, each electronic chirp felt like a hammer strike against the tense quiet, a stark reminder of the fragile thread by which a life was currently suspended. On the bed lies Harrison Chase, his face pale against the starched white pillowcase, a network of tubes and wires connecting him to the machines that were, for now, doing the work of keeping him alive. The vibrant, determined police commissioner was gone, replaced by a still, waxy figure. Standing vigil at his bedside, her hand wrapped tightly around his limp fingers, was Brooklyn Quartermain. Her usually impeccable makeup was streaked with tears that had long since dried, leaving tracks of grief down her cheeks. She hadn't slept, hadn't eaten, hadn't moved from this spot for hours. Her entire world had shrunk to this chair. This hand, this incessant, terrifying beeping. The door to the room whispered open, and Dr. Hamilton Finn stepped inside, his expression a carefully constructed mask of professional calm that did little to hide the worry in his eyes. He wasn't just Chase's doctor. He was his brother. The dual role was a difficult balancing act, a constant push and pull between clinical detachment and familial terror. "Brooke Lynn," he said softly, his voice rough with fatigue. He approached the bed, his eyes scanning the monitors before settling on his brother's face. "Any change?" Brooke Lynn's voice was a hoarse croak, barely audible. Finn picked up Chase's chart, though he already knew every detail on it by heart. "His vitals are stable. That's what we're focusing on right now. Stable is good. It gives his body time to fight." "Fight what, Finn?" Brooke Lynn asked, finally turning her red-rimmed eyes to him. "What exactly is he fighting? You keep saying the surgery was a success, that the internal bleeding was stopped, that the swelling is going down, but he's not waking up." Finn placed the chart back at the end of the bed and sighed, the mask slipping for just a moment. "The body goes through an immense trauma, Brooke Lynn. The brain especially. It needs to shut down to reboot in a way. We just have to be patient." "Patient?" She repeated the word as if it were foreign, tasting its bitterness. "How can I be patient when the man I love is lying here and I can't do anything? When the person who did this to him is still out there?" The identity of Chase's assailant was the other open wound festering in the room. It had been a hit and run, a deliberate act of violence disguised as a random accident. But the Courtemains and the Port Charles Police Department knew better. The investigation was moving, but for those in this room it wasn't moving fast enough. Every second the culprit remained free was a second of injustice, a second of pain added to Chase's suffering. "The PCPD is doing everything they can," Finn said, though the words sounded hollow even to him. He placed a comforting hand on Brooke Lynn's shoulder. "You need to take care of yourself too. Chase is going to need you strong when he wakes up." "If he wakes up," she whispered, the fear finally vocalized, hanging in the sterile air between them. Finn squeezed her shoulder. "When?" he insisted with a force that brooked no argument. "He's a fighter. You know that better than anyone." As if to prove his point, a faint, almost imperceptible twitch passed through Chase's fingers nestled in Brooke Lynn's hand. Her breath hitched. "Finn? Did you see that?" Both of them stared, their world narrowing to that single hand. For a long moment nothing happened. Then it came again, a slight pressure, a conscious movement. "Chase? Harrison, can you hear me?" Brooke Lynn leaned forward, her voice trembling with a desperate hope. "Squeeze my hand if you can hear me." They waited, the beeping of the monitor sounding like a countdown. And then it came, a weak but undeniable squeeze. Tears, fresh and hot, spilled from Brooke Lynn's eyes. Finn's professional composure broke into a relieved grin. "That's it, brother. That's it. Come on back to us." Chase's eyelids fluttered, a Herculean effort against the weight of unconsciousness. They opened slowly, unfocused, clouded with confusion and pain. He blinked against the harsh fluorescent light, his gaze drifting around the room before finally landing on Brooke Lynn's face. A weak, raspy sound escaped his lips. It wasn't a word, but it was everything. The journey back had begun. Across town, in the opulent, sun-drenched living room of the Courtemain mansion, a different kind of tension was brewing, one laced with decades-old resentments, new betrayals, and the bitter taste of corporate warfare. Tracy Courtemain stood by the grand fireplace, a crystal tumbler of brandy in her hand, though it was barely past 10 in the morning. Some crises, in her opinion, demanded an early start. Her son, Ned Courtemain, currently living under the perplexing delusion that he was the 1970s rock star Eddie Main, was strumming an acoustic guitar on the sofa, humming a tune that was decidedly off-key. "Must you?" Tracy snapped, her patience worn thinner than usual. "Some of us are trying to contemplate the utter ruin of this family's legacy, and your folk revival is not helping." Ned, or rather Eddie, looked up, a beatific, vacant smile on his face. "The music soothes the savage beast, Mama. You seem pretty savage this morning. What's got your goat?" "What's got my goat?" Tracy sputtered, taking a large sip of brandy. "What's got my goat is that my brother, the sanctimonious hypocrite, is currently across town trying to hand over the keys to the Courtemain empire to a man who would see it carved up and sold for parts." The object of her fury was, of course, her brother, Monica Courtemain, and the man in question was the notoriously ruthless corporate raider, Cade. The deal to save ELQ from a hostile takeover was teetering on a knife's edge, and Monica's secret negotiations with Cade had sent Tracy into an apoplectic fit. Drew Kane entered the room, his expression grim. He had been trying to play peacemaker, strategist, and damage control expert all at once, a nearly impossible task when dealing with the Quartermaines. Tracy yelling about it isn't going to change Monica's mind, Drew said, his voice calm but firm. We need a strategy. A real one. Not just this. He gestured vaguely at her brandy glass and Ned's guitar. Strategy. Tracy laughed, a harsh, brittle sound. The strategy is to stop her. She's blinded by some misguided notion that this Cade character is the lesser of two evils. She's trading a wolf for a fox, and we're the chickens. The chickens. Eddie looked confused. I thought we were the Quartermaines. Are we poultry now? That's a weird metaphor, man. Tracy ignored him, her focus entirely on Drew. You have to talk to her, Drew. She respects you. She might actually listen. Make her see that this is a deal with the devil. Cade doesn't want to save ELQ. He wants to absorb it. He'll promise her the moon to get his foot in the door, and then he'll gut the company from the inside out.